Hey everybody, this is ServbotSteve, and this is my top 10 countdown of my favorite Best Picture winners. However, before we begin, I'd like to point out some ground rules. First off, these are my favorites. They may not be the actual best. I'm not judging these based on how many awards they won or anything like that. It's just my personal picks. The other important thing you should keep in mind is that as much of a film fan that I am, I haven't seen all the Best Picture winners. So there are some really big names that aren't going to be on this list, and I apologize for that. With that in mind, let's get started. Number 10. The Sting. It's hard to describe why I like this movie so much, but I think a majority of it goes to the fact that Paul Newman and Robert Redford are brilliant together. The interplay between their two characters really is some of the most amazing comedy I think I've seen from older movies. Now, granted, this is somewhat of a dated film, and it holds up by today's standards, and it's kind of a history lesson. I consider it the modern predecessor to the crime film. Now, yeah, the original Ocean's 11 came out much before this, 1960, I believe, where this is 1970, 71. But even still, I just enjoy this movie more. It probably has one of the most memorable soundtracks of any of the movies on this list. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but the ending is probably one of my favorite twists in cinema history. You follow? Number 9. The Godfather. I really hope I don't find a horse head in my bed after this. I'm going to bet that I get a lot of flack for putting this so high on the countdown. And it's not that I don't like this movie, otherwise it obviously wouldn't be here. I mean, the acting is good, the cinematography is good, everything is really good about this movie. It has some of the most iconic scenes in cinema. It's a very, very good movie. I'm not saying it isn't. I don't know. Granted, I've only seen this film end to end once, so it could be an appreciation thing. I think if anything, it's really just that it isn't my genre. I'm not a huge gangster, mafia, film noir, whatever you want to call it. It's just not my kind of film. And this is a personal preference list, so you have your preferences, I have mine. Fair enough. Number 8. Slumdog Millionaire. I probably made people mad for putting The Godfather at such a poor position on this top 10, but now I probably have people who want to kill me for putting Slumdog in a better position, so let me explain myself. I think I enjoy this one mostly because it took a terribly cliched and so-so love story plot and made it really, really entertaining to watch. And that really says a lot for Danny Boyle's directing. Also, considering that pretty much all the leads are more or less nobodies, and they were able to make it so believable and entertaining, you really just gotta give a nod to this one. Incidentally, if this was going to be a top 10 list of the best ending credits music, this would win. Just saying. Number 7. Forrest Gump. This is on this list for a lot of reasons. It's funny, it's a very interesting point of view story, and most of all, in my opinion, it really is just one more example of why Tom Hanks is such a dang good actor. I think the only reason this film isn't really higher up is that it's not something you can watch over and over again. It's not that it's not entertaining. I really like watching it. Like, if I see it on TV, I'm like, oh, Forrest Gump, and I'm there for the next 4 hours. But it's just not anything I really would watch on a daily basis. I can't think of a reference joke for this one. There's too many good scenes. Number 6. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I don't want to say too much about this film, because if you haven't seen it, the shock value of it is incredible. On the one hand, you have Jack Nicholson playing one of the most likable, insane people in cinema. And on the other hand, you have Louise Fletcher playing arguably one of the most evil characters I've ever seen. Now, there is a really good side cast of characters and some really good scenes. I'm sorry if this doesn't really explain why I like this movie, but I think I'll just say that it's because of the characters and the truly incredible ending. Number 5. Casablanca. Okay, remember how I said I didn't really put Forrest Gump that high because it's not something you can watch over and over again? Casablanca I can watch over and over again. It's funny, it's got some likable characters, it's a timeless story, and it's just something that I think I could watch any day of the week and enjoy. Oddly enough, I'd say my favorite character is actually one of the side characters, Claude Rains playing the police chief. Yeah, he's a character meant as comedic relief, but I honestly think he steals the scene every time. I think if I pulled up a list of my favorite films in general, this would probably be among the usual suspects. Number 4, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Okay, you know how The Dark Knight did that for comic book movies? Lord of the Rings, Return of the King did that for fantasy films. It's visually stunning. The scope is off the charts, and it's just a wholly enjoyable movie. There's nothing much else to say other than that this is a truly epic movie. Number 3, Silence of the Lambs. I'd have to check, but I think this is the only horror film to ever win Best Picture. This movie introduced me to Anthony Hopkins, and I'm so glad it did. The character of Hannibal Lecter is one of the most chilling, terrifying, and psychologically mind-screwing experiences I've ever had. But tell me you weren't rooting for him the whole time. And let's not forget the other performances. Jodie Foster was fantastic in this film. You're probably wondering what I think of the sequels and the prequels and all that stuff. I don't care for much of any of them. They have their moments, but they're nowhere near as good as this. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm having a friend for dinner. Number 2, Gladiator. Now, keep in mind this list is personal preference, and very much like Casablanca, I can watch Gladiator again and again and again. And in my defense, Russell Crowe won Best Actor for this film, and then the following year he was nominated for the Best Picture, winning A Beautiful Mind. Yeah, the movie's a little over the top, it's not accurate to true history, but it's entertainment. Next time you watch this movie, ask yourself, are you not entertained? And all things considered, it is actually a very good movie. There's a lot of epic fight scenes, there's a lot of epic scenery going on, there's a lot of political intrigue, which does make it more than the usual hack and slash frat film like 300 was. And it's just fun. And my all-time favorite Oscar winner is Schindler's List. I don't even know where to begin with this movie. On one end, it's a biopic about one of the greatest untold stories of the Holocaust. On another, it's a story about the disintegration of the Jewish ghetto. Yet again, it's a film about the terrors inflicted on the Jewish community by the Nazis in the concentration camps. And yet, this one movie is all of those things put together. Across the board, you have some of the best performances by some of the most incredible actors and actresses around. And you've got arguably one of the best films by one of the most acclaimed directors of all time, Steven Spielberg. You could say it's a long film, but at the same time, every scene seems necessary. Everything tells you something. It's incredible to watch. And I do feel a little hypocritical with putting this at the number 1 spot because with some of the other ones, I put them higher up because I could watch them again and again and they were enjoyable to do so. This is really a movie I can only watch once a year or so, and that's mostly just because it's so visceral. It's so real that it just blows your mind. Well, I hope you enjoyed this countdown, and I hope to see you again next time.